Hi everyone, my name is Chevon Edwards and I will be taking you through pattern arrangements. Now, this presentation is done in such a way that you can do it at your own home. Alright, so it's to ensure that all of us who are experiencing difficulties with this new coronavirus actually still can get some work done. Alright, so let's get into it. Alright, now before we can understand what pattern arrangements are, we have to understand what is a pattern. Now in music, a rhythm is created when a beat is repeated. Now in art, a pattern is created when you have a single piece of a design repeated over and over in a particular sequence. Now these sequences are unique. You can have your own sequence created by yourself, or you can use some of the few that we'll discuss today. Alright, so pattern is basically formed when a motif is that one single item that is used to create the pattern. Now as we go through the presentation, you will understand more about motifs. If I'm going too quickly, feel free to pause the video, read over the slides, and just ensure that you catch up as we go along. Alright, so here is an example of a pattern. Now if you notice, the item that is being repeated is actually a triangle with some lines in it. Alright, so one single triangle would actually be what a motif is. That would represent the motif. Alright, so it's that one triangle that creates this entire pattern. Alright, so let us just go forward and you'll see more and understand more what I'm talking about. Alright, so what is a motif? Now a motif is a decorative object. Alright, so it is that one single piece of the design that I mentioned earlier that creates the pattern. So in the design we just saw, the motif is what? It is a triangle. Alright, that triangle that you saw repeating over and over and over is what created the pattern. So that's referred to as the motif, that single triangle. Alright, so here, what do you think our motif would be? Alright, so our motif in this design would be this single elephant. Now the motifs can change color, that's okay, but the motif in the design is that single elephant. Alright, so now that we understand what a motif is, now we can understand how to arrange our motifs to create a design. Here are some designs, some motifs I pulled from the internet. These are a little bit more complex. These are ones you would probably have to make, but in light of our circumstance, we're going to have to use some motifs that are lying around the house. Alright? So, the pattern repeats now is what creates the pattern arrangements. Now, a pattern repeat is the format or sequence that a design takes. So, for example, you want your design to alternate. For example, you don't want to have a straight pattern or all the triangles touching like you saw just now. You can create a sequence where you have a triangle appearing every 2 spaces, every 3 spaces, or every 2 spaces, then 1 space. You decide. So these unique sequences, just like a beat, it's the same way that you can arrange your patterns. Alright? So let's go forward and see what happens. So in other words, it's the layout of the design, how you arrange your motif. Now here are the pattern arrangement styles that we'll be looking at. So we have one row stripes, random, border, and spotting. Now for the one row stripe, if you notice, each of these motifs are arranged in the same sequence. However, you notice that one row is skipped each time. So that row in between those butterflies at the first section, you can fit another row of butterflies there. But for this particular pattern arrangement, you will notice that the butterflies skip 1 space before repeating the pattern. So that pattern arrangement style is known as one row stripe, where you have one row of the motif going down, then you skip a row, then go down again, then skip a row. Now for the border motif, the border design or border pattern arrangement, you will notice that the motifs just go around the edge of the paper. Fairly simple. Alright, so you can use these for picture frames, you can use these for documents. You will normally find them in Microsoft Word. It's just a border design. Alright, so it's fairly simple. All you need to do is arrange the motifs beside each other around the edge of the paper. Now for the random. Now the random is a little bit different now. So you can use different styles for this one. There's no particular order to it. You just place the motif randomly at different locations. Fairly simple, right? Now we'll move on to spotting. Now for spotting now, it's a little bit more unique. So you will have a motif, start at the corner, skip, start at, go again, skip, go again, skip, go again. Now for this particular pattern arrangement, you will notice that you have no two butterflies beside each other. Each time you lay out the butterfly, you skip a space. You skip a motif space beside and above. That way you get this particular layout to look as if you're spotting, as if you're just alternating. Butterfly space, butterfly space, butterfly space. And you do that right through the design. This way you ensure that there's no butterfly too close to each other or beside each other. Alright? So some equipment that you will need for this exercise at home are your scissors, your sponge, your eraser, your pencil, your sharpener, your ruler. Alright, these are all items we should have in light of our circumstances. Alright. So the materials you will need are paint and paper, your regular cartridge paper, and you can use your acrylic paint, your poster paint, or ink if you have any at home. Alright. So here are some possible items you can use as a motif or a block. Alright, so the motif here would be a marker, and if you notice, the base of the marker is where we'll be using. The base of the marker is what will create the pattern for us. Alright, so if you noticed a while ago, we had a butterfly as our motif. In light of our circumstances, we're just going to have to improvise and use some things that are lying around the house. So we're going to use this marker. Well, this is a possible item I could use. But this marker, I like this one better. It has a more unique shape. So this marker is another possible item you could use as a motif. Other possible items include medicine bottles. You know, you might have a medicine bottle, an empty medicine bottle in the medicine chest. You could probably try using that. No problem at all. Just ensure that it has a nice surface or a unique pattern. Or all else fails, we have our faithful bottle cap. We can use a bottle cap to be our motif as well. Alright. So other possible items include your perfume covers. I know you ladies have some fancy perfume bottles with some fancy covers that might have unique shapes. You can use that. You can use your lipstick if you can't find anything else. Your lipstick bottle. Your sharpeners. Sharpeners are nice. They generally come in unique shapes. And any other thing that you could possibly think of. Alright, so step 1, you cut your paper into 8 by 8. Simple. Get your cartridge paper, cut it in the desired size, and move forward. Alright, so you're going to measure the motif you selected. So if you decided to use a bottle cap, you're going to measure it to make sure that you get the size that you need. Alright, so I'm going to use the marker, so I measured the marker to ensure that the marker can fit within the spaces that I organized. So step 2, you use the ruler and the pencil to line up the paper based on the measurements you have. Alright, so here I am now. I'm ruling up my paper to ensure that I have all of the right arrangements. For when I rule up this paper now, when I roll this paper up, I will be able to better make judgment as to where to put my motifs. Alright, so the rolling up of the paper helps you to guide the motif when you're making your pattern arrangements. Alright, so here I am again. The pattern, the size that I was working with was 1 inch. So I was working 1 inch spaces for my squares. This way I will be able to make better judgments for my pattern arrangement. However, I did not use the motif size that I decided to use, because I have good judgment, so I can know where to put my motif. But if you don't, I suggest that you measure your motif specifically. It can be time consuming, but it's more accurate. Alright, so here's what it looks like when I was finished. So you must ensure that each of them have the same space, equal squares, so that when you're doing your motif application, you don't run into problems because of inconsistencies where your spaces are concerned. Alright, so step 3, now you make your pattern arrangement. Now for me, I did not mark the areas that I will be using because I have a good memory as to where I will be putting my patterns. But for you, should in case to avoid any mistakes, you can use a little marking from your pencil to mark the squares that you'll be putting your motifs in. That way you don't make any mistake and put it in the wrong space. Alright, this is especially important for your spotting technique because you know you'll be skipping a space each time, and you want to ensure that you don't mess it up in the middle of the design or at the end of the design. So the best thing to do is just use a marker, or no, not a marker, use a pencil to make a little mark in the squares that you will be placing in your design. Alright? So step 4 now is where things get a little bit more tense. So we're going to start, after we have selected our motif, we're going to start to apply the ink to the surface. Now let's go. So we'll need to squeeze out our paint or our ink or whatever we're using. So we're going to put that into our palette or whatever you decide to use. If you don't have a palette, we're going to put that there. After we have done that, now we're going to grab our sponges and we're going to use our sponges to create. We're going to use our sponges to create the design. No, sorry. We're not going to use our sponges to create the design. We're going to use the sponges to apply the ink to the motif. Was a little distracted there because of a phone call. My sincere apologies. Alright, so let's move forward now. So we're gonna dip the paint similar to how you would see somebody use a stamp. It's a similar procedure, only we don't have a stamp, so we're going to be using the sponge to substitute. Alright, so once we have applied the paint to the sponge, we're going to apply the paint to the marker using the sponge. So if you see what I'm doing here is applying the paint to the surface that I will be using on the marker. Alright, once it is done, I check to ensure that the area is covered properly. If it's not, then I use the sponge to apply once more. Alright, so here goes. So after you've done that, now you're going to carefully register your prints. Now this part can be difficult, so I implore you to be very relaxed, be calm, and probably try a few practice runs before you do the actual thing, so you can get acquainted with how to apply it properly. Alright, it can be a little bit difficult. If you sway a little bit, don't worry about it. It's a part of the process. Just ensure that you get it as consistent as possible. Alright, so you're going to register the print by pressing the area with the ink onto the surface. Alright, you don't want to use too much ink on the surface because you want your design to look neat and sharp, so don't flood the area with ink. Alright, so you continue registering the print. Ensure that you add ink back to the surface each time to ensure that you are giving the design a rich look. You don't want it to seem as if it's fading, so you want to register the print, then apply ink again, then register the print, then apply ink again. Alright, so you repeat the process. If you notice a few of my patterns did not register properly, that's okay, that's a part of the process. Try to make it as consistent as possible, however. Alright, so once you've done that, you're going to repeat it until you complete the pattern arrangement styles. So you're going to do it for all 4 styles that you've learned, and the steps are the same for each. Alright, so once you have done that, it's a simple walkthrough Just ensure that you are consistent and do it to the best of your ability. Alright? Now here are some samples that I've completed before, so you can have a look. Now this is my example of spotting, and if you notice, it's a flower sharpener. So it is something simple, some everyday items. These are easy to access, so it's not any rocket science, guys. So using the items around you, you can really create some nice designs. So this is a spotting example. If you notice, I skipped a space for each. Alright, and here's my one row stripe example. Alright, now for this one row stripe, I put the motifs really close to each other to get that stripe look. Alright, that's okay as well. Alright, so if you have any questions, feel free to email me or write your comments down below. No problem, I will respond as quickly as possible. Alright, so best of luck, guys. All the best.